On a snowy night, in a thriving business, 7 people were mercilessly murdered. The police formed a 120-man special investigation squad. After a year, there was no progress. The modern Sherlock Holmes aids the investigation, and found key evidence in a few pieces of chicken bones. So, what exactly happened on that snowy night? Now, let us travel back to 1992. In the small town of Palatine, not far away from Chicago. In this town, there was a small shop named Brown's Chicken and Pasta. It was a chain restaurant that hoped to rival KFC. In 1992, there was a couple, Richard and Lynn. They poured their entire life savings into the franchise. At that time, Richard was 50 years old, and his wife Lynn was 49. They were happily married for 25 years and had 3 daughters. Since this store was situated next to a busy highway, not far from Chicago O'Hare Airport, business was thriving. The shop hired 5 employees. They were, the chef Guadalupe, age 47. Thomas, aged 32. Marcus, 31. And 2 part-time employees, 17-year-old Rico and 16-year-old Michael. The couple was your average middle class. They had 3 daughters. And their goal was to manage their store well, so they can give their 3 daughters a comfortable life, and retire comfortably. The chef Guadalupe also had 3 kids. They were immigrants. He was working hard to support his family. The 31-year-old Marcus was a Navy veteran, and he planned to get married with his girlfriend soon. They were all ordinary but kind people, having their small little dreams and goals, with friends and families that loved them. No one would have ever thought that someone would murder these good hard-working men in cold blood. At 8th of January 1993. Anxious family members are starting to notice something unusual. They were family members of Brown's restaurant. Brown's Chicken opens at 10 in the morning and closes at 9 p.m. Since normally, after closing the store, they would do some simple cleanup and call it a day. And their loved ones would be back home at 10. But on this particular night, it is almost midnight, and they are still not home yet. Anxious family members are starting to get worried and called the police. So, the police sent 2 officers to Brown's Chicken to assess the situation. When they arrived, they saw the lights were turned off and the door was closed shut. So they assumed that the staff may have organized a dinner together and forgot to inform their families. Not seeing anything out of the usual, the police left. At 2 in the morning. All 7 staff still haven't gone home yet. So, the family members called the police again and told them the situation. This time the police took it more seriously, and they sent 2 officers to investigate. When they arrived, they took a closer look at the shop, and saw faint signs of blood on the floor, so they forced their way in. Feeling suspicious, they opened the freezer, and they were shocked by the scene. They found the corpses of Richard and Thomas in the west cooler, and at the freezer at the east side, they discovered the bodies of the other 5 victims. They were piled on top of each other as if they were just frozen meat. The panicking police ran back to their car and quickly reported it to the police station. Within minutes of the discovery, the crime scene was sealed off and they started investigating. They discovered that the victims had bullet holes in the back of their heads. Looking at the angle of the shot, it is very likely that all the victims were kneeling when they were shot. It was an execution-style massacre. Mike and Rico are the youngest of the victims, and even they were shot multiple times. They found 6 bullet holes in Mike, and he was also stabbed by a knife. When they were alive, they may have tried to resist the killer. Investigators found bullets in cardboard boxes, jars of gravy and soda machines. A total of 20 bullets was recovered from the crime scene. Forensic technicians dusted for fingerprints, measured blood spatter, took swabs and photographed the dead bodies. They retrieved nearly 100 fingerprints, along with hair, blood and bullets. They also discovered a blood-stained mop at the east of the shop. It is estimated that the killer used it to clean up the blood stains on the floor. The money in the cashier was missing. On the counter of the shop was an empty drinking cup and some receipts. The police conducted their investigations very carefully, and even searched all the rubbish bins in the shop. They found that all but one of the rubbish bins were empty. The police were not sure if there are any clues to aid them in their investigations, but they still preserved it in a freezer. Surprisingly, this bag of rubbish became the key of solving this case. The police formed a 120-man special investigation squad. But as time went by, the police were not even sure about how many guns were used. And how many killers were there? There was barely any progress, and the case became a cold case. A lot of people, including the victims' family members, felt that the police have wasted precious time and opportunities. Such as the first time they called the police. If the police had been more careful, there wouldn't be a 4-hour delay in discovering the bodies. And they also failed to investigate the surrounding areas immediately. If they had, they would find a 24-hour gas station nearby. They had a security camera in operation that might have captured the killers on tape. But the police did not know about the existence of the camera until 2 weeks later. By then, the tape from the night in question had been erased and reused. The citizens were angry and fearful of the incident, as their small town had become the place of a massacre. The local police were under a lot of pressure to solve the case. But they made no significant progress. So, they tried to call in a renowned forensic expert from Connecticut. A man the media called the modern Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Henry Lee. The Palatine police contacted him multiple times, hoping that Dr. Lee will aid them in their investigations. But at that time Dr. Lee was working in Connecticut as chief criminalist and was a university professor. He was in high demand and was very busy. He simply couldn't make the time to travel to Chicago to aid the investigations. So, he refused the request. But the police really need the help of Dr. Lee. So, the police found Dr. Lee's mum and asked for her help. She agreed. And asked her son to make time for them. So, on the 28th of January 1994, a year after the incident, Dr. Lee flew to Palatine. He spent 3 days studying the evidence and conducted a crime scene reconstruction. But even he thought there was little hope in solving the case. Even if he knows about the bullet's diameter, sequence of events, it was still not enough to identify any suspects. Without the guns, there were simply too little clues. Without clues, even Sherlock Holmes cannot work his magic. Dr. Lee told the police that he was not able to help, but the persistent police told him that they still have a bag of rubbish that they have preserved, and asked him to take one final look. And they took the bag of trash out of the freezer. When Dr. Lee saw the bag of rubbish, he was immediately confused. The restaurant was situated next to a busy highway, and had a lot of customers. How could there be so little trash left? Opening it, there were 2 pieces of bread, 37 pieces of French fries, 2 chicken legs, 1 uneaten chicken breast and chicken wings, and 5 pieces of chicken bone remains. He discovered that this set was the last order in the store on the night of the murder. The time on the receipt was 21:07. And it was a fried chicken set of $6.69. Normally, there should only be 2 pieces of bread, a portion of French fries, 1 piece of chicken breast, and 4 pieces of fried chicken. But in this order, there was an extra chicken wing. But is this little detail really useful for solving the case? Normally, the store closes on 9 p.m. sharp, and rarely sold any food after that. Combining these factors, Dr. Lee gave the police an estimation. He believes that the murder was done by someone who the shop owners or employees knew. And the one who placed the last order is very likely to be the killer. But more importantly, when most people eat chicken wings, there is a high possibility that they will leave some saliva on the chicken bones. And with saliva, the police can conduct a DNA test. Dr. Lee immediately extracted the DNA from the chicken bones. Back in 1994, DNA technology was still in its infancy. So the Palatine police have never thought of using DNA test to investigate. And luckily, Dr. Lee successfully extracted the DNA of the suspect. But unfortunately, back then there was no DNA database. Even if you have the suspect's DNA, you still need DNA samples to match them. Dr. Lee asked the police to look into the people who have worked there before, and those who knew the staff. But there were no findings. So it became a cold case again. On the 25th of March 2002, Anne Lockett made contact anonymously with the police through a middleman. She revealed that she had important information about the Brown's Chicken Massacre case. She accused Juan and her former boyfriend James of murdering 7 people back in 1993. They had threatened her life, and she did not dare to reveal their secrets. But it had always weighed on her conscience. And after 10 years, she could not bear it anymore. The police have received over 15,000 tips about this case. And they led to nowhere. But she knew that one of the victims vomited. This detail was not released to the press, so her tip holds credibility, and the police started investigating it. On the 8th of May, the police found Juan and James, and asked them to perform a DNA test. Perhaps feeling that refusing the test will cause suspicion, they agreed. The police discovered that Juan's DNA matches the DNA left on the chicken bones. And this man has worked in Brown's restaurant before. Back then, the police have even interrogated him. But he had a fake alibi. So he was never discovered. But now faced with proof, they started to confess. Back then, Juan was only 18 years old, and James was 20. They were best friends. Both loved rock music, and they enjoyed torturing small animals. At that night, they want to do something big. At first, Juan said he want to try killing someone. Anyone. And James said that he would help. They chose this restaurant because there was no security systems. And Juan also knew the place well, since he worked here before. Armed with .38 caliber guns, and with their pockets stuffed with ammo, they walked up to the restaurant, and blocked the back door so no one could escape. At 9 o'clock, they entered the restaurant. After entering the restaurant, Juan ordered a fried chicken meal, and started eating it slowly, waiting for the other customers to leave. After that, he threw all his remaining food in the trash can. And said, "Let's do it." They pulled out the guns and both put on gloves. Pointing the guns to their head, they herded all the staff to the freezer. And started the merciless massacre. All 7 staff were killed. After that, they took $1,800 from the cashier. Lastly, they threatened Anna to provide them with a fake alibi. Psychologists later commented that Juan and James were typical psychopaths. Psychopaths know what is right and what is wrong. Yet they consciously follow a path of evil. They are not crazy. But they simply lack any conscience and couldn't care less about the crimes they committed. To them, committing a crime is simply like entertainment. They cause harm to society without guilt or remorse. And this is what made them so dangerous. In 2007, James and Juan were accused of 7 counts of first-degree murder while committing a robbery. And they were sentenced to life imprisonment. After 16 years, the case finally ended.